One of the biggest questions that people ask about GLP medications is this: what happens after? What happens after I lose the weight? Do you stay on the medication forever? Do you stop it? And why do some people regain the weight so quickly? The truth is that GLP medications are powerful tools, but long-term maintenance or success depends on what happens during the maintenance phase. And surprisingly, that's the part that most people are not talking about. In this video, I want to walk you through what maintenance looks like and how to think about it in an intelligent way. Hi, if you are new here, my name is Evelyn. This is Evelyn's Desk. Welcome. Here we sit down and we talk about GLP medications and how they affect weight loss and maintenance. Let's get on with it. All right. Why does maintenance matter? If you've ever listened to me talk before, or you were fortunate enough to come into our office once upon a time, you would hear me say that if you do not have an exit plan for weight loss, you might as well not start. It's the same concept here with GLP medications and losing weight. Maintenance matters because at the end, you want to know and learn exactly what it takes to lose. Maintenance matters because weight loss is the first part of the entire wellness journey. Maintenance is where the real work starts. Okay, that's where you are working to stabilize your weight and then maintain it. Let me explain why. First of all, when you are losing weight, the body cells do not disappear. They shrink. They go from being like this to this. And then guess what your body wants to do after you are done losing the weight? It wants to gain it back. Your body is all about homeostasis. What is going to keep it at its home base the longest without being uncomfortable? And when it comes to weight loss, that means getting you right back to where you were. Why? Because we've evolved. Even though we are not currently being chased by saber-tooth, your body thinks that it might, and it's preparing for that. And guess how it's going to do that when it comes to weight? It's going to try to maintain the weight that you had before so that you are ready to run away from that saber-tooth. Evolution takes a little bit to catch up. And lastly, your metabolism may adapt. Depending on how much muscle mass you may or may not have lost during the weight loss process, if your lean muscle mass went down during the weight loss phase, the likelihood of your metabolic rate being lower than it was before is highly likely, which then means that your body thinks that it needs less calories than, well, okay, let me rephrase that. Your taste buds, your brain is saying, hey, we need X amount of calories. But your metabolic rate is saying, not really. So there's a little bit of a divide in there. Okay, so now you're wondering, all right, so how do I keep the weight off, right? How do we achieve successful maintenance? There's different ways. The three main ways that we can think of are going to be to continue on medication. GLP medications, again, they are a tool. There's a very specific way in which you can stay on the medication for a long time for maintenance, as long as you speak with your provider and come up with a plan with them that is very specific for you. And it's great because you'll have the metabolic support, you'll have the appetite regulation from the medication. Another way that you could do that is through gradual reduction, meaning that you stay on the medication, but you titrate down. And again, that is another plan that you have to work on putting together with your provider and nutrition coach or dietitian so that this plan is safe and that you are following the steps accordingly and nothing bad happens, right? This requires planning though, as you could tell. And then there's the third option, which we've seen. You stop the medication. you just stop it. You've reached your weight loss goal and you stop the medication. That one, while it is an option, can have some consequences that are not necessarily desirable. No judgment here. You, as an individual, can do what you feel is best at that point in time for your specific situation. The issue is that some of the negative consequences might be appetite rebound. Again, the body is seeking to get you back up to what it thinks is optimal conditions to run away from the saber tooth. Habits not stabilized. You're used to following the hunger cues while on the medication, but not now that you are off of the medication. So then the metabolic response, or I'm sorry, the appetite regulation from the injections is not there, and you have to do it on your own, which both of those two consequences would lead to you gaining weight at the end, or you are more likely to gain weight after stopping the medication. And again, no judgment here. We here at Live Light understand that people are different. Your situation is different than the person next to you. And so we do always encourage you to do what is best for your health in your situation. But just to inform you so that you can make an informed decision. Now, moving on. Why does regain happen? Why do people gain weight after being on GLP medications? Going back to my very quick biology lesson for you, fat cells, they're like this. You lose the weight, they go like this, they shrink, but they're still there. And so what happens is that the body is trying to refill them back up with fat to store, to keep in it for a running away from that saber tooth. That saber tooth, we might need to name it now. But so to get those fat cells filled, there's triggers, there's hormones that are telling the brain that it needs to eat, which then tells the stomach that it needs to growl because it needs food in order to do that. So that appetite signal that was getting suppressed with GLP medications, it's back, and it's back with a vengeance. We talked about muscle mass, lean muscle mass. That means that if you lost some muscle mass during weight loss, your metabolic rate is lower, which means that you need less calories to sustain the same weight that you did before. So you can, if you eat normal, so what you would consider normal before, now that is too much. Think of it this way. Lower muscle mass, lower metabolic rate, which means that if you were eating here before and your metabolic rate was here, but now your metabolic rate is here, but you eat the same amount, now you're going to gain weight. And then food reward sensitivity increases, which means that something happens and you're more likely to go and snack and or eat something to celebrate, because food is social. This is why we talk about structures, we talk about coaching, because if you do not have structures, then the body resorts back to what it used to do. It goes back to its preset habits. Okay, so how do you do maintenance right? You have to focus on the foundations, habits. First, you have to make sure that you are preserving your lean muscle mass. How do you do that? Resistance training and adequate amounts of protein intake. Not too much, not too little, just enough. How do you find that? You can track it. You can measure it in ounces as you put it on the plate. You can get the GLP Success and Maintenance Guide and use that to help you. Or you can give us a call if you have questions and want to do a program with us. So that way we can help you put your meals together. So we have lean muscle mass prevention, Then we have structured eating, meaning you follow an eating schedule that fits your life. What will that do? It'll help you to consistently eat. Make sure that you are having balanced meals that will give you the nutrients and overall nutrition that you need. And therefore, help you to avoid overeating or snacking when you're not supposed to, or in such a way that it just washes away everything that you've done for weight loss. Then there's food quality. What we mean by that is not for you to go and spend your entire check at Whole Check. None of that. What we mean by that is to avoid ultra processed foods. Those are going to be the foods that think of them as potato chips and soda. Those sort of things. Not the pre-made chicken that you have to get sometimes at Costco, or from the freezer section, or the frozen berries that you get at the store because you don't want to throw out berries that went bad because you didn't eat them 3 days after purchase. We're talking about ultra processed foods such as potato chips. And then lastly, monitoring. Monitoring helps you in many ways, but the main one that we are focused on is that it helps you to keep track and look and pay attention very quickly to when things start to go awry. Meaning, let's say that you had a meeting today that really, really stressed you out. You did not like the outcome, and that drove you to have, let's say, 2 extra glasses of wine because you were stressed out and you were venting to a friend, and before you knew it, 2 glasses of wine had been consumed. Okay, but you are tracking these things, so now you know for sure, without having to go back on, rely on your memory, you know for sure that that happened, and you know how to fix it for the following day. That's what monitoring does. I created the free GLP Success and Maintenance Guide because many people focus entirely on losing weight, but not on protecting their results. GLP medications are an incredibly helpful tool, but long-term success won't come from the medications alone. It comes from understanding how the body adapts to weight loss and building a strategy for the maintenance phase. When that's done well, weight loss becomes far more sustainable. Maintenance isn't the end of the journey. It's the phase that determines whether the results last.